Why Job Suffered. The Hidden Truth About God's Justice. Book of Job Explained. There are 3 books in the Bible known as the wisdom literature: Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Job. Proverbs shows us that God is wise and just. We learn that God has ordered the world so that it's fair. The righteous are rewarded, the wicked are punished. In other words, you get what you deserve. But then we meet Ecclesiastes, who observes that people don't always get what they deserve. The world isn't always fair. Life is unpredictable and hard to comprehend, just like smoke. And this makes you wonder, okay, well, is God actually wise and just? Exactly. And it's that very question that gets explored in the final book of wisdom, Job. Let's dive in. Job begins with a strange story that takes place up in the heavens, describes something like a heavenly command center. God is there with these angelic creatures called the sons of God, and they're all reporting for duty. God points out this man Job, his servant, showcasing how righteous and good he is. Then one of these angelic creatures approaches. He's referred to in Hebrew as the Satan. Now, who is this? The word Satan is actually a title. It literally means the one who opposes or the accuser. Out of this whole heavenly crew, he is the one questioning how God is running the world. And he proposes that Job might not actually love God. He suggests that Job is only a good person because God rewards him. His argument is chilling. Skin for skin. A man will give everything he has for his life. But stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. If God were to take away all the good things he gave to Job, the accuser claims we would see Job's true colors. So he thinks Job is just working the system? That's exactly right. Maybe he's obeying God just to get what he wants. So God agrees to this experiment. He allows the accuser to inflict suffering on Job within boundaries. First his possessions and children, then his health. And Job loses everyone and everything he cares about. It is devastating. Remember, he deserves none of this. God himself said so. The remarkable thing is that in the midst of all this suffering, Job still praises God. He falls to the ground and worships. Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. At least for chapters 1 and 2. But then in chapter 3, we find out how he's really feeling inside. He unleashes a poem that reveals his devastation, a long, elaborate curse on the day he was born. He wishes he had never been conceived. The pain is raw, real, and unfiltered. After this, some of Job's friends come to visit him: Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. At first, they do something beautiful. They sit with him in silence for 7 days. They simply mourn with him. But then they open their mouths, and they all say essentially the same thing. Job, you must have done something horribly wrong to deserve this. After all, we know God is just. We know the world is ordered by God's justice and fairness. So you must be getting what you deserve. For the next 34 chapters, the friends and Job go back and forth in dense Hebrew poetry. His friends keep speculating about why God might have sent such suffering. They even start making up lists of hypothetical sins Job must have committed. But after each accusation, Job defends his innocence. And here's the crucial point. Job is innocent. Not sinless. No one is. But innocent of any crime that would warrant this catastrophe. Job rides an emotional roller coaster. At some moments, he's confident that God is still wise and just. Yet in other moments, he doubts God's goodness. He even comes to accuse God of being reckless, unfair, and corrupt. By the end of the dialogue, Job demands that God come and explain himself in person. And God does. He appears in the form of a great storm cloud. Now, here's where the story takes a turn that surprises almost everyone. God doesn't give Job a direct answer. He doesn't tell Job about the conversation with the accuser. He doesn't explain the cosmic wager. He doesn't even mention it. Instead, God does something very different. He takes Job on a virtual tour of the universe. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? God asks, tell me, if you have understanding, who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? On what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone when the morning stars sang together? God shows Job how grand and complex the world really is. He asks Job if he's even capable of running the universe for a single day. He points to the stars, the sea, the snow, the rain. He talks about lions feeding their cubs, mountain goats giving birth, wild oxen that cannot be tamed. He shows how much detail exists in the world, things we see every day but don't truly understand at all. But God does. He knows it all intimately. He pays attention to the beauty and operations of the universe in ways we haven't even imagined, in places we will never see. Then, to conclude, God shows Job two wondrous beasts, Behemoth and Leviathan. He brags about how great they are. And these creatures are dangerous. They would kill you without even thinking about it. Yet God says they're not evil. They're actually part of his good world. And then that's it. That's God's whole defense. It seems kind of weird, doesn't it? What was this all about? Here's what's happening. From Job's limited point of view, it looks like God is unjust. But God's perspective is infinitely bigger. He is dynamically interacting with a whole universe of complexity when he makes decisions. And this is what God calls his wisdom. Job asking God to defend himself is actually kind of absurd. He couldn't comprehend this kind of complexity even if he wanted to. It would be like an ant trying to understand quantum physics. So where does this leave us? It leaves Job in a place of humility. He never learns why he suffered. The heavenly conversation remains hidden from him. And yet, he's able to live in peace and in the fear of the Lord. He repents, not of sin, but of his small view of God. I had heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you. Therefore I despise myself and repent in dust and ashes. But that's not where the book ends. After this, God restores to Job double everything he had lost. Twice the sheep, twice the camels, twice the gold. He has 7 more sons and 3 more daughters. And this again is surprising. Is this a reward? Is God saying, congratulations, Job, you passed this elaborate test? No. Think about it carefully. The whole book just made the point that Job losing everything was not a punishment. So getting it back cannot be a reward. If it were a reward, it would prove the accuser right. That Job was just serving God for what he could get. So why does he get it back? Apparently, God in his wisdom decided to give Job a gift. We don't know why, but what we do know is this. Job is now the kind of person who, no matter what comes, good or bad, can trust God's wisdom.